Greetings, my beautiful Art Shark AP humans. Welcome to day one AP Art. I am going to ask you to do something, and I want you to do it without skipping forward on this video. So the first step is I'd like you to read this list of verbs. Once you've read over that list, I'd like you to write down the three that seem to draw your attention, that speak to you in some way. Rather than me sit here quietly while you read the list and me breathing in the background, pause the video here, read over it, and once you're ready to continue, then click play and move on to the next step. Okay, you ready? Go. All right, so welcome back. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to watch this quick little video by an artist named Richard Serra. Richard Serra is known particularly for these really large steel sculptures. I'll tell you guys from experience that looking at pictures of his sculptures is pretty meaningless until you're actually standing inside of one. You're just never going to get it. So find a chance, please go stand inside of one. My favorite ones are at Dia Beacon in New York, but the closest ones that I can think of offhand, there's one at the Sculpture Center in Fort Worth. So, okay, we're gonna watch this quick video and then I'll tell you the next step.
When I first started, what was very, very important to me was dealing with the nature of process. So what I had done is I'd written a verb list: to roll, to fold, to cut, to dangle, to twist, or whatever. And I really just worked out pieces in relation to the verb list physically in a space. Now, what happens when you do that is you don't become involved with the psychology of what you're making, nor do you become involved with the afterimage of what's going to look like. So basically, it gives you a way of proceeding with material in relation to body movement, in relation to making, that divorces you from any notion of metaphor, any notion of easy imagery. I think what artists do is they invent strategies that allow themselves to see in a way that they haven't seen before, to extend their vision. Various artists do it in different ways. Cezanne did it his way. Obviously, Pollock did it his way by dripping downward in a horizontal plane. But I think what's interesting about artists is they constantly come up with ways of informing themselves by inventing tools or techniques or processes that allow them to see into a material manifestation in the way that you would not if you dealt with standardized or academic ways of thinking. These ellipses only came about because we invented a wheel to make these things in order for us to understand what we were doing. And albeit it's a small invention, and on another sense, it has never come up in the history of form making before. We're not drawing the outside of the piece like a pear or a donut. What we're doing is trying to figure out what the internal volume will revolve like. We made a wheel to figure that out, and that wheel predicates the outside, the skin. So it's the way of working from the inside out. But I think one constantly tries to invent ways of seeing into what one's doing so you don't get into some lockstep notion of how to do what you do. I have to kind of invent new strategies in order not to go back to something that's just a reflex action.
Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is to take just a regular old index card. If you are at home and you don't have access to an index card, really any piece of paper will do. Just cut it into, say 3 inches by 5 inches. If you happen to have something thicker like cardstock, that would be optimal, but make it work, do what you got to do. What I would like you to do, please, is to apply those 3 verbs that you already picked to that index card. Now, this is just an obvious one, but if you selected to bend, you're going to bend the card. I'm hoping maybe that you chose some ones that are a little more abstract to force you to think a little bit. If you are working in the classroom, you have the remainder of the class period to do this. If you are working at home, I would strongly encourage you to limit the amount of time you give yourself for this. Set a timer for 30 minutes and don't work any longer than that, just to force you to really kind of think on your feet. When you're finished with this, I'm going to ask you to take a picture of it, and you're going to be uploading that to Google Classroom. All right, enjoy. Bye.